Ok. Olá a todos, tudo bem com vocês? O meu nome é Ingrid, eu sou uma estudante de engenharia química aqui da USP no Brasil. E sejam bem-vindos a mais um episódio de Vortex Drift. Nesse episódio, a gente vai lidar com o Davies Okeowo. E sobre um pouquinho do Drift, né, para vocês que acabaram de entrar aqui no episódio, o Drift é como grandes pessoas arriscaram para criar uma forma inovadora de ver o mundo. Esta é uma série do Vortex, que é uma organização que tem como objetivo conectar e empoderar futuros empreendedores, inspirando a mudança. Se você ainda não está inscrito no canal, gente, por favor, inscreva-se lá no canal do YouTube. Não se esquecem, hein? Nós temos 1 milhão de episódios sobre todos os países do mundo, vocês vão adorar. E esses vídeos podem ser em português e em inglês. Ahora en español. Hola, mi nombre es Ingrid y ahora estamos empezando el cuarto episodio de Drift. Drift es una serie de libros sobre cómo grandes personas arriesgaron-se para crear una nueva realidad de innovación en el mundo. Esta es una iniciativa del Vortex. Vortex es una organización fundada por 7 estudiantes emprendedores de diferentes universidades brasileñas que tiene como objetivo conectar y empoderar los futuros emprendedores, inspirando el cambio. Inscreva-se no canal do Vortex para conhecer muitos ecossistemas empreendedores de todo o mundo. Tendremos episódios em 3 línguas: inglês, espanhol e português. Now in English. Hello, everyone. My name is Ingrid Diaz. I'm a chemical engineering undergraduate at the University of São Paulo, and today we are starting the 4th episode of Drift. Drift is a project to tell how great people took the risk and cleared the way for innovative minds. Drift is a Vortex initiation. Vortex is a national entrepreneurship organization founded by 7 young Brazilian entrepreneurs from Southeast colleges that aim to connect and empower university entrepreneurs from across the country to collaborate and to make change. Subscribe to Vortex channel, where you can find lots of episodes about entrepreneurship ecosystems in 3 languages: Brazilian Portuguese, Spanish, and English. Don't forget to check it out. And now I'd like to introduce to Fernando. Fernando, would you please?
Hi, my name is Fernando Guerreiro. I am 19 years old, and I am undergraduate of economics in Brazilian Federal University. In my university, I founded an entrepreneurship organization, and with other friends, we founded the Vortex. You can go on, Davies, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Davis, and it is such a pleasure to be here. It's such a privilege to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you all. My name is Davis. Like you all know, I am an entrepreneur from Nigeria. I've been running my businesses over the past 7 years. I run a company that does financial services and business development for small businesses in Nigeria. I also run another company that does trainings and skill development for our young people, especially university undergraduates in Nigeria as well. There are a couple of other startups that I'm working on as well at the moment. And I'm just really excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, that's great, Davis. Thank you so much again for accepting our invitation. For you who just tuned in and are watching now on our YouTube channel, Davis is from Nigeria, and he do awesome things in his startups. And he also appeared on Forbes Africa 30 under 30. Am I right, Davis?
Yes, you're correct. That happened this year.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a pleasure to talk with you. And our first question is going to be, how do startups work in Nigeria?
It's an interesting question because, first of all, if you look at the basic concept of startups, right, it's essentially building businesses. And building businesses is relatively the same around the world, just with a little bit of changes here and there in terms of, you know, the cultural differences, what happens in terms of the availability of resources in that environment. So if you think about the Nigerian context, startup is alive, right? There's a very huge entrepreneurial spirit that Nigerians have. Now think about it this way. Startups solve problems with businesses. So wherever you have a lot of problems, you would definitely have a lot of startups, especially if the environment is enabling. And that is how I would describe startup in Nigeria. Nigeria is a developing nation. We have the largest population in Africa. We're the most populous Black nation. There are about over 200 million of us, and about half of us are young people. And the country has a lot of challenges, right? If you in the context of the kind of challenges that a country can have, there are challenges in terms of leadership, challenges in terms of infrastructure, all forms of challenges. Now, because of that, there are also lots of opportunities. So there are a lot of young people in Nigeria that are solving problems for the Nigerian market, for the African market, and even for the global market, just based off of the experience of being a Nigerian. And the interesting thing as well is that there's a very, very large mass of young people. So there is a lot of global connectedness, learning on the internet. People are collaborating across borders and things of that nature. So that whole experience has massively grown the startup ecosystem in Nigeria over the last 15 years. And the ecosystem has really grown. If you go back 10 years, you probably would have just maybe one or two venture capital firms in Nigeria. But right now, there are a lot of VCs, there are a lot of incubators, a lot of accelerators every single week, not just in the whole of Nigeria, but let me just say only Lagos. So I'm based in the capital city, in the commercial capital. The capital city is Abuja. The commercial capital is Lagos. Now, just in Lagos, every weekend, right, you have 10s, 20s, even upwards of 30 different events that are focused on entrepreneurship. So it's a training program, it's a Google program, it's an Amazon program, it's a local program. All forms of different organizations are working on the startup scene, and it has just made for such an engaging, startup environment. The challenges across all other startup ecosystems are here as well. Maybe they're even a little bit worse, because if you compare the ratio of capital that is available, resources that is available, to the ratio of people that want to be startup owners, founders, and things of that nature, there's still a lot of way to go. But that said, the entrepreneurial spirit is very alive in Nigeria. The startup ecosystem is buzzing, and interesting things are happening.
Great. It's so interesting how the Nigerian ecosystem is similar with the Brazilian ecosystem. Here in Brazil, we have two capitals that you mentioned in Nigeria. The Ingrid is in the political capital, that is Brasilia. And the São Paulo is the commercial capital that have a lot of business, a lot of venture capitals, a lot of money. I think São Paulo is the biggest capital, the biggest commercial capital in the Latin America. And I have a question to you, Davies. We believe that culture in Nigeria is a major influencing on national business and education. How does the national culture of Nigeria play that role in this business and in the education?
That is a very interesting question. And the way I would like to answer that question is quite unconventional, because the question centers around how the national, business environment, is influencing the startup ecosystem. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, in Nigeria, right, you have the big corporates that have been around for a long time, the government contractors, you have all the regular type of businesses. Initially, they weren't paying attention at the beginning. They just saw the startup ecosystem as, young people just playing with computers. But over the last 10 years, there's been a massive shift from the corporate environment. Now, not necessarily from the government, because in Nigeria, there's so many problems that we all refer to ourselves as our own government. So I am my own government. I provide my own electricity. I provide my own water. I provide my own security. So in terms of the government, not a lot to be desired. But if you take a look at the institutions, the corporate environment of Nigeria, initially, it was dismissive. But very quickly, the moment they began to see some levels of successes from some of the early pioneers like Iroko TV and quite a number of other startups, they started paying a lot of attention, and now they are heavily involved. So take, for instance, if you take a look at some of the big banks in Nigeria, they all now have their own, form of startup support. So it could be an incubation program, a competition that they organize occasionally, hackathons that they put together, things of that nature has been happening a lot in the ecosystem. And, it has only grown because now we're even seeing a lot of collaborations between both local corporate organizations and foreign corporate organizations. There's still some way to go, in terms of the involvement of the corporate environment in the startup ecosystem. Because take for instance, we haven't really had a lot of. There's been a few, but we haven't had a lot of local buyouts and acquisitions and things of that nature, which would really give you an indication of how mature the ecosystem has been and how ready the corporate environment has been. But that said, there's been a lot of investment and activities back and forth. There's still a whole long way to go, but one of the things that has done is it has encouraged people even more. Because when you see the big banks, the big corporates, the oil companies, the different type of companies, right? Consulting companies, insurance companies, you've seen all those organizations all lending a voice to the cause of entrepreneurship, right? What he does is he inspires people. He inspires people. See, I'll give you an example. Just go about 5 years or 7 years, back. It was still the norm in Nigeria that, if you take a group of young people in high school and you ask them what you want to be in future, what do you want to do with your life, just 5 years back, 7 years back, you will still hear the regular answers. I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a banker, what else is there? Those three things come first. I want to be a pilot. But now, if you take that same poll, before you hear any of those other things, you will have heard things like, I want to be a billionaire. I want to own a startup. I want to build a tech company. So if you think about it, there's been a cultural shift, based on the growth of the ecosystem, and the corporate environment has fed into that. The government occasionally tries to present themselves as if they do care about the startup ecosystem. They do a bit of work, to be fair. They do a bit of work, but not to the levels that is required. But I mean, we're Nigerians. It doesn't really bother us. We get things done regardless.
Well, I love the way that you brought the subject of the pools of the high school and the people who are graduating, and I'm going to be a billionaire. And especially when you talk about that people of the government to do the startups, solving the problems that the government most of the times don't care. Not that they don't care, but they don't solve it. All right. And there's actually a great similarity here in Brazil, but not about startups, but we complain a lot to our government. And another point I would like to point is about Israel. When you said that startups is the one who are solving problems, in Israel does the same thing. And for you who are watching, you can also watch that episode here on the Vortex YouTube channel. Please check it out. And now I'm very curious about unique businesses that is only found in Nigeria. Is there any startup that is only found in Nigeria, anywhere else in the world, only in Nigeria?
It's difficult to answer that question. I don't know of any off the top of my head. Obviously, with a little bit more research, you would find startups that are solving problems that are peculiar to Nigeria, because there's some problems that are just the problems have a Nigerian citizenship. They're just peculiar to Nigeria. But for the most part, most of the businesses you find are things that you will find in other parts of the world as well. Because again, there's a lot of similarities, for instance, with the Nigerian environment, with the Brazilian environment, for instance, and a few other countries. Brazil is advanced, compared to Nigeria in certain degrees, but again, there's still a lot of similarities. So when you take, a look at all the kind of problems that are solved, over the past 2 3 years, we have had a lot of Nigerian businesses internationalize. Businesses that started as startups here, and they've now grown big. They've really done well. They're now operating in multiple countries across the world, not just on the continent of Africa. So that shows an indication that ultimately, business is business anywhere in the world, right? There definitely are small businesses that are solving some specific types of problems, but they really, again, because of the kind of problems that they solve, it's so small and narrow and peculiar to the environment, it doesn't have the opportunity to scale. So because of that, it's difficult for you to easily just say, oh, there's this business here, there's that business here. But generally speaking, I'll give you a very basic example. There are some foods that are, Nigerian specialty that the local people enjoy. You can't, it's tough to scale such businesses. It's tough to bring technology into those kind of businesses. So again, there will always be those balances to be made. But all in all, there are businesses here that, are just similar to businesses across the world as well. Especially, when you look at the kind of businesses that are developed in third world developing economies, businesses that are solving real problems. You find a lot of them here in Nigeria.
Talking about these real problems, in Brazil, we have the first unicorn startup that was a mobility startup that make an app like Uber for the Brazil reality, to do the taxi drivers and to help people make this mobility in big cities, because in Brazil the mobility is a big problem. And Davies, I want to know, what is the biggest market that are innovation in Nigeria, and what is the biggest traditional market in Nigeria? Like in Brazil, the biggest market is about agro. We have a lot of commodities like corn, like soil, but our major innovation is in the transportation market. We have two unicorns in this market, 99 taxis and Logi. And how is this in Nigeria?
So in Nigeria, it's very similar to Brazil, right? So the biggest traditional market as well is agro, because there's a lot of consumption that happens in Nigeria, and Nigeria does export, a fair amount of its produce as well. So because if you look at the Nigerian economy, the mainstay has been oil for a long time, and oil is government business, right? So government extracts the oil, the sale. It doesn't really, the activities in the oil industry doesn't flow deeply into the day-to-day of the economy. So when you take a look at the second, you're thinking agro, because Nigeria has a very, very large history of agricultural performance. So traditionally, that is where a lot of activity has been. Now, in terms of the market that has seen the most innovation, right, it is agro and fintech. Fintech in Nigeria is huge. Financial technology of all shapes, sizes, and forms. There's been some innovation as well in terms of mobility. There's been quite a number of work in that regard. But in terms of just the sheer size of the startups participating in a specific sector, and the sheer size of customers that are being engaged with, the size of the market, right, that is being addressed, agro is definitely one. Fintech is another. So if you take a look at the Nigerian startup ecosystem, especially when you take a look at businesses that are technology enabled, majority of them, you'll find them in fintech of some form of financial services, right? It doesn't have to be payment. It could be payment, it could be data, it could be records, it could be processing, it could be quite a number of different things, right? But some form of financial services, so I just lump them all together as fintech. And then you see a lot of innovation coming up as well with regards to agriculture. So those essentially are the two biggest markets when it comes to Nigeria.
Well, that's great to hear about fintechs growing and flourishing in Nigeria. That's really great. Here in Brazil, we're trying to do that too, but it's kind of hard, but we're getting there. But now I would like to take a dive into some personal questions, okay? And
Let's
is
go.
there great advice young people should know when it comes to their entrepreneurship journey in businesses? We've seen that you co-founded some businesses about training young people and to them to become young leaders and to make them take on the world. So we'd love to know any advice for us too. We'd love to hear it.
How many do you want? There's a lot. So let me just share a few. The very first thing that I would say to any young person that wants to be an entrepreneur is you must understand that the journey is tough. What is shown to you on TV, on the internet, and the newspapers, if that still exists, for the most part, is not the real picture of entrepreneurship. For every successful startup that you see in a tech magazine or on TV or anywhere else, there are 10,000 others that have tried and have failed and have felt very bad and have felt like they've wasted their time. There are 10,000 others for everyone that you see that is successful. So it is not enough for you to say, entrepreneurs really seem to be doing really well, especially tech entrepreneurs. There's a lot of opportunities. You go to Silicon Valley, you go to, the accelerator, this one, that one, you get invested, you get money, and all that. For every single one of those that you see on the internet everywhere, there are 10,000 others that have failed miserably, and so it is very, very tough running a business. Let me share this, right? I'm going to explain something to all the young people that are watching this. And this will probably shift your perspective a little bit. If you ever did accounting as a subject in high school or college or university or anything, right? You will be familiar, and if you've ever run a business in any way, shape, or form and you kept your records, you'll be familiar with the income statement, right? The income statement is essentially the financial table that shows how a business performs, right? Now, if you look at the structure of the income statement, it says a lot about entrepreneurship. So the first line of the income statement is sales, right? Who does the work to bring in the sales? The entrepreneur. The entrepreneur does the work. You do all the work. You employ people. You register the business. You get suppliers. You make the product. You pitch to customers. You try to get money, and you do all the work, the crazy work, the hard work. You do it, and the business starts. And then when money starts coming in, money comes in as sales. That's the first line in your income statement. Now, think about every subsequent line in the income statement, because the beginning is sales, the end is net profit, right? Think about every line in between as people getting paid. So the income statement comes, so sales come into the business, so you have sales. Yeah, the business now has money. Now, with the money that the business has, it begins to pay people. Who is the first person to get paid? Suppliers, because the next line is cost of sales. So suppliers are the first people to get paid. After suppliers, who are the next set of people to get paid? You have the administrative expenses. So your landlord gets paid. Your employees get paid. Your service providers get paid. Your internet gets paid. Your taxi driver gets paid. Everybody gets paid. And then the next line of expense is interest on loans. So if you've ever taken a loan or something, your bank gets paid. So supplier gets paid, landlord, employees, every other person gets paid, then the bank gets paid, and then who's the next person to get paid? The government, tax, right? Then after the government gets paid, whatever is left is what then belongs to you, the entrepreneur. Who did all the work? You. Who got paid last? You. That gives you an idea of what entrepreneurship is like, because many times, and people that have run businesses would be able to relate to this, many times when everybody else is getting paid, there is not enough money left over for you. In fact, there would be many times when you don't even have enough money to pay some other people, and you're working really hard just so that you can pay them, not even so that you can pay yourself, it can be a very, very tough journey. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, see, I'm an entrepreneur. I love being an entrepreneur. I cry many times, right? And then I get to those conversations and it seems like, hey, this is really great entrepreneurs, right? So, but if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared. You need to be prepared in your mind. Your mentality must embrace the fact that the journey is tough, the journey is long, but if you do the right things, if you persevere, if you work really hard over time, if you're consistent, if you are balanced, you know when to quit, you know when to be persistent, then you're going to make a success out of it at the end of the day. Entrepreneurship is about sacrificing the guarantee of security for the possibility of freedom, right? You might not get the freedom in the end, though. You might not get the financial freedom like that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the rest of them. You may not get that financial freedom, but there is a chance that you will get it. And that is the beautiful thing about entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship is quite beautiful at the end. But in between, along the journey, it is a very, very tough process. So you just have to be prepared. Now, if after all of said, entrepreneurship is still exciting to you, then congratulations. You are in for a roller coaster ride that will be fun at many times and will be very, very gut-wrenching at many other times. So that for me would be the biggest advice I would give to any young person that's trying to start a business. I think the only other thing I'm just going to put in very quickly is this. If you want to build a business, right, the first place to go is not to investors. If you want to build a business, the first thing you must do is to build the economic machine. That is, how do we make money? Build the facility that creates value, that is, create your products or your services, then find a way to deliver it to customers that are willing to pay for it and get paid for it. Now, think of it, if you are able to create that basic economic model where you create value, you give it to somebody, they give you money back in return, then over time you can get money to grow it. Somebody that I really respect a lot says, you don't need money to start a business, you need money to grow a business, right? That statement is correct 97% of the time. There's a little 3% that you just can't start without money, right? There's a little 3%. But 97% of the time, you actually don't need money to start. You just need your work, your gut, your sweat equity to create the business. And once the business is created and is beginning to gain traction and is beginning to grow, then you can get investors' money to put into it. Because I wanted to make that point because today you see a lot of people celebrate investment. Investment is just the acquisition of capital. That is not success. That is just you saying you're really, really celebrating and jubilating because you employed people. If you think about basic economics, right, the entrepreneur brings together the factors of production. What are the factors of production? You have your capital, which is the money. You have the labor, which is people, right? And then you have other resources like your land and building and things of that nature, and your technology and things of that nature. So every single thing is a resource. The money is a resource. Your employees are resources. The technology you're building is a resource. They're all resources. So don't think that when you raise investment, you've arrived. When you raise investment, you have succeeded. Because it is celebrated in the media does not mean that that is the benchmark for success. That is the point where their journey to growth has just begun. And in the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of businesses that have raised a lot of money and have failed terribly, right? So to every young entrepreneur, my challenge to you is this: build a functional economic model, then grow it with your sweat equity, then you would attract investment. You wouldn't even have to chase it. You would attract it. It will come to you. You wouldn't even have to chase it.
I love your answer, your metaphor about income, salaries, and the entrepreneur journey. It's so brilliant, so intelligent. And your answer is so empathic with the matching economy, sorry. And I want to know why the Nigeria have this growth in investment that you mentioned preview. And what do you think about this business in what they doing with this money, and what level of maturity these investments are doing in this business that you mentioned that they're terrible, and why this investment for them.
Uh, so first of all, that example was a global example. I mean, we've seen WeWork, we've seen a few other of them, that have raised money, a lot of money, that have failed in the last 2 years. To those businesses, before I come back to the specific case of Nigeria, which tends to your first question, but to those businesses that have, raised a lot of money and then still failed at the end of the day, one of the things that you found, because there is a channel that I also watch on YouTube that talks about startup failures, and they detail some of the reasons why those businesses fail. And for the most of them, it's always this second point that I made about building a functional economic machine, but at a much larger scale. So what happens is, you see this business, they raise a Series A, or maybe they raise a seed round, right? And then they take that money and they're funding rapid expansion without a functional economic model, right? They're just taking the money, take example of WeWork. They were taking money, they were, investing in rent. They were just renting places, creating those workspaces, without, pacing it. So you cannot, so it's difficult. You see, one of the things you have to do as an entrepreneur is to ensure that your business grows just, say, 2 steps ahead of the growth of the demand, of the growth of the customers, so that you are able to consistently fulfill the demand. But these were businesses that, because they had capital, they had a lot of money to burn. They didn't want to, I don't know, I'm not judging, but I'm just saying, they probably didn't want to show that, oh, you have money, but you're not using it. So they went on a rapid expansion. And this is what I want you guys to pay attention to. Every time you see a business raise investment and go on a rapid expansion, majority of that funds is spent on resources that are not directly related to value creation, right? So they spend money on some very, very funny things, some very frivolous things, because they have a lot of it, all right? And then they justify it and say, this is for the future of the firm, we're building the future today and things of that nature. But see, the truth of the matter is, economics will not change because of your preferences. You have to build that economic model, that model that consistently generates cash. If you are a business and you're not cash flow positive, and you're not even making an attempt, to begin to do that, and you're just taking in investment, and because you know how to pitch and you speak really good, you speak good English or whatever language it is that you're speaking to your investors, and you're so eloquent, you present really well like Obama, and you do so well, and you have a great idea, and you're just telling the stories and people are believing you. There comes a time when they stop believing you, when they only can believe the money that is coming, the numbers that they're seeing. So that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why the startups fail. They just focus a lot on spending the resources they have acquired on other things that are not directly related to generating demand. Because ultimately, if you call it a business, then it has to be that it serves a certain customer base and it generates money from that customer base. That's why it's a business. You must get more value than the value that you have expended. But a lot of these businesses just think that because we're in this age of technology and technology is driving a lot of things, you can just just believe that everything's going to work out fine. Economics will always remain. No technology can wish away economics. And then when it comes to the Nigerian environment, one of the things that have fueled the growth of investment in Nigeria is because, first of all, Nigeria, I believe very strongly, is the next frontier for the world when it comes to human capital. So my personal dream for Nigeria is for Nigeria to become the human capital of the world. So one of the challenges that we have as a country, because of the way the country is, we have a lot of Nigerians, flying abroad and going to different places in the world. And every time you see Nigerians in different places, they're always excelling. They do really great work, right? They do amazing things, right? Even in the just concluded, US elections, there were a lot of Nigerians that had become American citizens that won, electoral seats. But generally across board, Nigerians really do well. So number one, there's a large youth population that is technologically aware and are leveraging technology faster and increasingly on a daily basis. So the raw material is there to build the future. So that's number one. Now, because of this resource of human capital that we have, there is an increasing attention of the world into what is happening in the Nigerian startup ecosystem. So there's been occasional acquisitions, and just about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, right, there was another major acquisition where Stripe acquired Paystack. Paystack is one of the fintech innovations that was built from the ground up here in Nigeria. I think they started about 10 years back, something of that nature. Initially got some local investors to back them, and they have grown. They are widely used in Nigeria, across the continent of Africa, and they are continuously growing. They're continuously building, and they've done a really fantastic job. Just about 2 weeks ago, Stripe acquired them for $200 million, right? Yes, so that happened just about 2 weeks ago, and it's not the first acquisition, but it's like the first I don't think there's been an acquisition of that size. There's not been an acquisition of that size for a startup that was organically started by two young Nigerians, fresh college kids that just said, let's do this thing. And they started working on it and grew it gradually and things of that nature. $200 million, right? And that event alone has even brought more attention to the Nigerian ecosystem, because as this attention comes, because we have the human capital, the attention is coming, the young people are working, because see, if we don't work as Nigerians, there's nothing to fall back on. There is no savings, there is no government, there is no wealth fund, there is no social security. So there's nothing to fall back on. So you have to make it. You have to work. You have to get things done. So because of that motivation that we have inherently in our society, people work hard. People do the work. They build things. So you have a lot of young people that are committed to building things. International attention is coming on them. Resources are being pumped into the system, either via investment in infrastructure of internet, better internet connectivity, things of that nature, or in trainings and things of that nature, or even in venture capital firms. There are quite a number of international venture capital firms that now have a specific fund for the Nigerian market and also for the African market. So I think that the core driver behind the growth of capital into the Nigerian startup market is, number one, the population of young, hardworking people that are really building things that are really, really interesting.
Wow, that was such a dive. I loved it. I loved every word you said. And again, I would like to say thank you for the advice earlier, and that was really inspirational for me. And you talked about the way the young people are very hardworking in Nigeria, and that's awesome. That's such great news. I would love to hear more from them. I would love to interview them as well. And we would like to know, what are the 3 major keys that Nigerian and young Nigerians use to succeed at their businesses, like you mentioned?
Interesting. 3 major keys that young Nigerians use to succeed. The very first is what I talked about earlier: determination. It's either this or we are bleep. That's the thing. As a Nigerian, you know that you don't have a fallback option, right? There used to be a time when, for the few young people, that had, probably people living in the United States or different places, there was that time when you would say, oh, if it doesn't work out, hopefully my uncle that lives in the US can help me. But even the US foreign policy has not been favorable to Nigerians, or over the Trump era, and even slightly before that. And again, the more globalization happens, and we're seeing all this wave of migration and immigration, you're also having a lot of kickbacks from a lot of traditional people, so again, it's a generational shift. It's understandable, right? It's just the state of the world. So because of that, immigration generally across the world to other places in the world has just become 2 steps tougher. So first thing is the Nigerian youth knows that for the most part, you don't have any fallback option. Even for the most part, your parents are struggling, to just keep body and soul together and to feed themselves. You have to make a way on your own. The government is not going to come to your aid. Nobody's going to come to your aid. You either make it work or you're going to be in trouble, because there are not even a lot of jobs. So I think the unemployment rate in Nigeria is somewhere around 23% or something of that nature. So there are a lot of people that do not have jobs. For the jobs that are available, a lot of people are competing for it. Hence the reason why we do the work that we do at Competence Africa, where we are training young people to actually build businesses so that we can create a multiplier effect, of people that are building businesses and employing people. So first of all, the doggedness of the Nigerian entrepreneur is one of the key factors of success. Then secondly, I think that the Nigerian entrepreneur, that average Nigerian entrepreneur, is very teachable. So because we know that we have problems, we have challenges, we want to learn so fast so that we can catch up with the world. See, the average Nigerian knows that in the Nigerian environment, right, you have your challenges. Nigeria is a relatively poor country, right? There's a lot of people that are living under the poverty line. So even though we are a lot, depending on the type of businesses you're creating, for instance, if you created a fintech business, right, you have automatically cut off, a large percentage of the country, maybe 1/4 of the country, because there's a 1/4 of the country that will not even engage with your product in any way, shape, or form. They're not going to use it. They're not going to be the customers. They're not going to be, just because they're too poor. They're not even technologically savvy. So they don't, so because of that, the Nigerian entrepreneur knows that even though we have a large population, there are limitations to our market. Our market is not all that it promises. So if there's such a lot of us, young people, building businesses, and we are building businesses to serve a market that is not all that it promises to seem, or promises to be, then what is the next solution for us, right? The next solution is, thank God for technology, we can sell to international markets, right? Now, in order for you to sell to international markets, you must be competitive. You must be able to compete in the international market. And essentially, you're competing with young people from Brazil, India, China, Germany, the US, the UK, Canada, Sweden, all those other countries in the world that have it good. They've got great government, they've got great infrastructure, they don't worry about power or internet or things of that nature. You know that that's who you're competing with, and you've got all these disadvantages. What do? You make up the difference in learning. And that is one of the biggest strengths that I've seen with Nigerian entrepreneurs. We are compulsive learners. We learn because we want to close the gap really fast. So take the developed world, went from the agrarian age to the industrial age, and they just kept going step by step, right? And then now we're in the information age. As Nigerians, we don't want to say, oh, because you left us behind at the agrarian age and you guys are now, in the information age, we are going to also take the steps that you took and just move from agrarian age to industrial age. Nigerians, we want to make up the gap. And this is not just Nigerians, actually. I've seen this across Africa. We want to make the leapfrog, and that's what we've been doing all along. We cover a huge, a gap in very short time. And one of the things that enables us to do that is learning. So I think that one of the biggest strengths of the Nigerian entrepreneur that fuels their successes is learning. So you have the determination, and then you have the learning. And a third one, I probably would say, let's see. Oh yeah, I think a third one would be the fact that, you know, the advantage that our environment gives us, the fact that we have a lot of problems. So you have a lot of problems to solve, a lot of real problems that people would pay money for. So although you do get some people that create, you know, ideas and startups that, you know, doesn't really serve a market or market need, but because you know that there's so many problems, you have options to choose from. So, and then when you choose these problems and you really develop a functional solution, you would always have a market that is ready to buy your product.
It's so interesting. In Brazil, this subject of learning, it's so strong. In the unicorn that I mentioned preview 99, they need to teach the taxi drivers how to use the smartphone. For them, they can use the app with the solution that will make the market works. And I want to know, how does the population accept new business in Nigeria? Like a new product from a startup or a new way of consumption? And if do you have any examples you can bring?
Oh yeah, fantastic. So the Nigerian population actually accepts startups really well, because while there might be a lot of us that are, you know, below the poverty line, live in rural areas, you know, and, you know, are not as technology savvy, there's an equal lot of us that are very technologically savvy, old and young alike. You know, you have a lot of young people. We have Nigerian parents on TikTok. So we have a large group of, you know, technology savvy, upwardly mobile, you know, at least people that can use the mobile phone and the internet together. So because of that, so long as the innovation that is introduced into the market solves a real problem, it will catch on, right? And the people, the startup founders that do a good job of marketing it and getting that initial push, it will catch on. And the thing with Nigeria is, when something works and some people start using it and they validate that it actually does work, it would grow rapidly. If it solves a real problem and it solves that problem really well, and number three, if the pricing is good, because like I said, the vast majority of the country is poor, so pricing really matters in Nigeria. It matters a lot. So if your pricing is reasonable and is good, you're going to get a lot of success. And there are quite a number of examples. I told you about Paystack that got acquired. It was started by two college kids that have they just graduated from college, and they have technological competencies, and they figured, you know, let's do something like Stripe for something. And they just started and they kept building, you know, and small Nigerian businesses started using them. My company uses them. Every other company uses them pretty much, right? So so that's an example, right? When a product is introduced into the market, the Nigerian population accepts startups so long as it solves a problem and the price is good. Another example, let me use this example. It's quite a popular example. I don't know if you guys know Iroko TV, but Iroko TV is one of the earliest successful startups in Nigeria. And essentially what they do is they offer you so think of Netflix, all right? Just like Netflix, but when they started, it was predominantly, you know, for Nigerian movies, and they were just offering Nigerian movies. They were offering you the opportunity to watch it on your mobile phone and on your computers and things of that nature. When they started, the only way, you know, you could watch a movie in Nigeria is to go buy a DVD, right? And there was a lot of problems with piratation and things of that nature. And then you had the small video clubs where you would go to borrow a DVD for a small amount, so that was the norm. But when this technology came, and this was even way back around 2008, when there wasn't a lot of technological, savvy in the population as we have today. But because Nigerians, we consume a lot of movies. I mean, our movie industry is the third largest in the world. I think we're behind Hollywood and Bollywood, US and India. Then there's Nigeria in terms of the movie industries in the world. Our movie industry is the third largest in the world. So Nigerians consume a lot of movies. So when they came up with that innovation, at the time, Netflix was not even popular, right? When they started. So, they started, and low subscription rates, you can watch, several movies, poof, they took off. And the population accepts them, adopted them. Before Netflix really gained ground heavily in Nigeria, which I think I would estimate started around 3 years ago, thereabout, Iroko TV was the main thing, right? So the population actually does accept startups well.
Well, that's great. Now I'm curious to know more about the Nigerian movies. I really am. I love to watch movies, and Fernando also does. And now I would like to add, before I do this question, I would like to congratulate all the young entrepreneurs around Nigeria. When you talked about the 3 major keys, that was awesome and very inspirational. I think us Brazilians need to learn from them, all right? And from you actually too. And now I would like to make this question. It's a little bit personal, but we are very excited to hear it from you. Can you talk more about the Competence Africa you work on? We're really excited to hear more about it.
Okay, so Competence Africa essentially is an organization that focuses on helping young people develop competences, skills that would enable them succeed either in career or in entrepreneurship. We are always focused on those 2 things. So we train people on commercial skills that one of the things that we focus on is with every skill that we train on, we always try to show you how to make money with it, right? So that's one angle of it. The other angle of it is the education system in Nigeria is quite poor, right? Quite poor compared to the other standards of education across the world. So what you find very often is when young people leave the university, they are not prepared to enter into the workplace, because when employers get them in, they have to sort of like retrain them all over again, both in terms of attitude, in terms of skill, in terms of workplace etiquette, in terms of, even personal development and management. There's a long way to go. And this was a problem that existed in the Nigerian environment for a long time, because the same way we have a huge unemployment problem, we also have a huge unemployable problem. So we have a large group of young people that are just not employable. I always knew that this was a problem, right? I've always known it, even as a young man growing up. But then I started my first consultant. So my consultant business was my second business that really took off. The first one failed. And I started my consultant business in January 2015, right? Now, we were a startup, didn't have money, we're just trying to make it work. So we didn't have money to hire like expert hands. I mean, we were providing accounting services and things of that nature to small businesses. So we needed to hire accountants. So we knew that we didn't have the money to hire like top professionals. So our go-to strategy was, okay, hire people that are just coming out of university and are looking for an opportunity, they're competing for jobs. So hire this kind of people. So between 2015 and 2017, we were hiring and we're firing, because you bring them in, you train them, and even with the training, you're still very disappointed, right? So it wasn't working. And then I thought to myself, I think it was in August 2017, I said, see, this thing is very simple. What if, since we can't hire anybody better because of money considerations, this is the only group of people that would even pay attention to the kind of salaries we're offering, because we weren't paying a lot, we're paying very little. So why not go to the universities, train them while they're still in the universities? By that, you're already having a familiarity with them. and then you are exposed to a large group of young people, and then you are working with them over 3 months, 6 months. You can see those of them that are really taking on the lessons and are improving and are practicing and applying themselves and becoming better. So for us, at the initial stage, it wasn't even that we wanted to start a company called Competence Africa. It was just, how do we get to train people so that they can be useful for us? Because all of my projections were, if we go there, we will offer them the trainings at a very, very minimal rate, which is what we still do today. In fact, we're at a point where we're reevaluating our business model, because our training programs that offer people tangible skills, prepare them for the workplace, we sell them for like $3, $5, maximum $10, $15, things of that nature. Which really does not really help us as an organization. Competence Africa actually is a social enterprise, right? So we will make profit where possible, but the primary driver is the social impact. So that was the motivation. Let's go in here and make this change happen. But then when we started it, we figured, see, this has to be a separate operation. And we saw that there was, a really, really large problem. So I saw it firsthand, and that's just where it took off from. We started by training people on how to use accounting softwares, because there was only one university out of 147 universities in Nigeria that was training its accounting students on how to use accounting softwares of any kind. There was just one university, and even that one university was training on how to use the old softwares, not the relevant ones that are being created now. So that's where we started from, and it just started growing from there. We still have a lot of struggles, but we've done a lot of good work along the way. And right now, we're at a point where, again, is one of the reasons why I decided, let's go do a master's. We're at a point where we want to begin to look at new models to expand the impact of our work, to other countries, to other places around the world.
It's so interesting. I have the last question to do now, and I think it's a good question for you and for your background. Who inspired you? And what do you do when you are in a difficult moment?
Okay, so there's a lot of people that have inspired me. A lot of people. I'm going to mention a few names because I feel that for what they have invested in me, I owe a debt of gratitude to them forever. And there will be, there would be some names you don't like. In fact, the very first name I will mention, you guys may not like it, but he impacted me, so it is what it is. The person who ignited my entrepreneurial passion and the person who made me say I want to be an entrepreneur is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump was the one who inspired my entrepreneurial passion. I've learned a lot from Donald Trump. I'm a huge fan of Donald Trump. I know that he's a very flawed person. He does some very, very stupid things, but I've learned a lot from the man. I've learned a lot from the man, and I just have to give that credit to him. There have been also other people that have inspired me as well. I studied Jeff Bezos a lot. I've learned a lot from Richard Branson. I love Shark Tank. I don't know if you guys know Shark Tank, but I love Shark Tank. He has, it's a show, brings together all those US, so Mark Cuban, Damon John, all those Shark Tank entrepreneurs. I love them all. Then there's this person that massively shifted my mind this year, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio wrote this book called Principles, and that book literally changed my life. And so those are some of the entrepreneurs that have inspired me, along the way. Then in terms of how I get inspiration, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a Christian, so I get a lot of inspiration from God, from Jesus. I pray really, and Jesus comes through. He comes through with ideas. Believe it, believe it when I say, sometimes I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, and I'm just saying, Lord, help me, show me what to do, teach me what the next step is, and solutions come. So I do get inspired by that a lot. And also another practical way that I get inspired is I pay attention to what happens to other startups. Right, so I watch other people. In fact, there's a major innovation that we're working on right now, which came from me watching somebody else's pitch. And so what they were doing is completely different from what we're doing. But I found out the core of their technology would massively transform what we were doing. I've just adapted that and we're building that right now. So I get a lot of inspiration from watching startups. I watch Shark Tank, Dragons Den, The Profit, any business show that you can think about, apart from, you know, business news and financial that talks about the stock market. I don't pay attention to those. But entrepreneurial, startup, pitching, things of that nature, I really get a lot of inspiration from those.
Well, that was our last question. And thank you so much again for accepting our invitation, Davies. I would like to congratulate you for your amazing work, incredible work in order to improve young leaders, right? And make Nigeria grow and flourish. We are really rooting for you here. And thank you so much for the audience who's watching right now. Thank you for you who's just tuned in. Don't forget to check our YouTube channel and our Instagram. We are also in LinkedIn. You can find us and talk to us. We'd love to hear you from you. Thank you again so much, Davies. We love the way you inspired us so much. You know, I feel so determined right now to make my stuff done. And Fernando, would you like to say a final word?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Fernando.
Thank you, David. And your economic machine explain it's fantastic. I will use this explanation for a lot of times. I love why do you relation the journey and the economic machine. And thank you again, David, for accepting this invitation.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Fernando. It has been my honor. And I really, really appreciate you guys for the work that you do for young people at the startup community, because without this kind of work that you guys do, it would be very easy to get the wrong ideas if we only rely on what the media projects. So thank you for the important work that you do. It would get tough at some point. It probably must have gotten tough for you guys at some point, but please just keep doing what you're doing. You're providing value for a lot of people. Thank you very much, and God bless you. And thank you to everyone who has watched. Feel free to connect with me on social media. My social media activity in the past 2 months has taken a nosedive because I've been schooling, you know, but you can still reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn now is where I am most active. So find me on LinkedIn. Let's connect.
Well, that's great. We will going to share all your information, LinkedIn, your Instagram, and your blog in our Vortex channel. And thank you so much again for watching. And this is the 4th episode of Drift.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.